those you've betrayed, who raise their voices to say, you won't be trusted anymore. No, you won't be trusted anymore. I figured I'd change up the verse in that song on my intro so you'd understand, so the media would understand that you won't be trusted anymore. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It is the 16th of September, 2025. I'm Dave vonKleist. These are the WTF Reports, and they're being brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. If you haven't checked it out, please visit our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the advertisers page and check out the Wave Watch. You'll be glad that you did. It's Rife technology. Yeah, Rife. It's a Rife machine you wear on your wrist. And if you don't know about Rife machines, well, they're based on Tesla technology. So anyway, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I was not on the air yesterday. Unfortunately, the entire area had an internet outage, so I was not allowed to be on the air. So I'm really upset about that because I had a ton of stuff that I wanted to get to from the weekend, and even more stuff is piled up in the past 24 hours. So I'm going to get right into it. First of all, you regular listeners know that I have been screaming about the media propaganda for decades and decades. That's right. And that's why that song I used for the intro, I wrote that back in 1995, folks. Yeah, that was 30 years ago. I've been screaming about the fake news and the lying media for decades. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a lone voice in the wilderness, but now finally, after all these years, people are starting to get it. And they're realizing that we've got to stop the propagandizing, the gaslighting, the lying from the media. And right off the bat, I want to draw attention to a young woman by the name of Ellie May. Ellie May has put together a petition, and it's going viral. And I highly recommend that you visit her X page. Go to X, by the way. Yeah, go to X and check out Ellie May, E-L-L-I-E, May, Ellie May. And she put this petition up, and it's already up over 100,000 signatures. We've got to get this up to 1 million. And when she posted her first post on X, she was asking people out there, could somebody out there please tag Donald Trump and get him to see what we're trying to do here? And what do you know? Donald Trump posted her plea for a petition on Truth Social. So he saw it. Yeah, that's good. So he's putting it out there. He wants to know how you feel about the propaganda on the media. And so I implore you, go to X and search for Ellie May and sign her petition. I did. And I want to share with you the post that she put, and she's going to actually share what the petition says. So, and this is really important stuff, folks. I mean, our country is hanging in the balance. And anyway, here's Ellie May describing her petition.
Sorry, guys, it's nighttime, but I figured I would let you know that I did, in fact, get a petition together. I am going to put the link in the comments, and once I figure out how to put it in my bio, I will put it there. I'm also going to be posting it on X, and let's try to get this to as many signatures as possible. We're already doing a good job with the video. It's performing pretty well on X, and I want to thank Nuke Taco for that one, and everybody else that had reposted, shared, and tagged me in it. I greatly appreciate it. With that being said, let's get into what the petition says. So I named the petition the Enact the Charlie Kirk Act to Restore Media Accountability. I watched a powerful and influential man die in a public setting surrounded by thousands of people who simply came to engage in a dialogue championing free speech, truth, and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. His life was taken, not from any wrongdoing of his own, but because of unfounded allegations perpetrated by mainstream media. These allegations lacked any substantial evidence, offering a stark reminder of the extent to which misinformation can endanger lives. We find ourselves calling for the re-implementation of the Smith-Mundt Act, a pivotal legislative piece that safeguarded the American public from the manipulation and dissemination of false information. However, in this new era, it should be revitalized and renamed as the Charlie Kirk Act. This amended act will hold media outlets, radio stations, educators, and content creators accountable for the false narratives and erroneous information they spread deliberately or irresponsibly. Moreover, we propose stringent penalties for social media companies that censor information unfairly. Each violation should be subject to a fine amounting to at least 35% of the company's value. Baseless accusations such as labeling individuals as bigots, fascists, or racists without verifiable proof tarnish reputations and endanger lives. Such acts should not be tolerated and must invite strict accountability measures. We stand at a crossroads where the essence of truth and the integrity of information are at stake. It is imperative to hold those who spread lies accountable, preventing the cycle of misinformation from harming more individuals. Now it's up to us to see if we can get this petition as big as the video is at this point. So I'm hoping you guys can help me out. Maybe a petition along with everybody that has been sharing and tagging so far might just be what we need. We do not need to stop with this movement. We need to go further. And the only way to do that is to be heard. So if you're with me, if you agree, you can click the link in the comments. You can click it over on X because I'm going to be posting it over there as well. Let's try to get this, I want to say an easy goal. Since we had gotten 1 million views on the video, I'm thinking at least 1 million signatures. I know it's a big goal, but I think we can do it.
Okay, so again, I implore you, go to X, look for Ellie May, and sign her petition. Now, as I was saying, I've been screaming about propaganda for decades. And over and over and over again, we've seen how the media is twisting and spinning and gaslighting and lying. I mean, flat out lying. And there's so many examples where they take certain comments out of context, twist them, and propagandize them. And I went back in time. Remember last year, when Donald Trump was talking about the January 6th committee and how the whole thing was just fabricated, et cetera, and he was also talking about the fact that yes, we're always sending our military overseas. How many times over the years have you heard people say, "Hey, look how come these members of Congress aren't the first one to put on a uniform and go over there and get on the front lines?" These members of Congress and the Senate, they'll be very quick to send our troops over to some godforsaken place to fight on behalf of the military-industrial complex or for Israel. But they never send their sons or daughters over there. No, not them. And so what Trump was saying, he was talking about about Liz Cheney and how she was a war hawk. Now I'm going to play the clip that you'll hear exactly what he's talking about, and that's why I'm saying he was referring to the members of Congress who never send their sons or daughters or never go over there themselves. Here's what Trump said, okay? And I'm going to play for you what the media did. This is so important, folks. We've got to get control of the media. So anyway, here's Donald Trump in his discussion about Liz Cheney and about sending our sons and daughters over there, but she would never go over there and face those guns. Here's Donald Trump.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face. They're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, "Oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy."
Mm-hmm. So he was saying, hey, how would Liz Cheney feel if she was out on the front lines? You understand that? Now, here's how the media spun the heck out of that. This is what we're talking about. Listen up.
Breaking news. Donald Trump took his violent rhetoric to a new extreme, suggesting the former Republican Congresswoman should be fired upon.
Breaking news. Trump under investigation for saying, quote, war hawk Liz Cheney should be fired upon.
Right now on ABC News Live, he suggested 9 barrels of a firing squad aimed right at her.
Firing squad.
Declaring before a crowd that Cheney should be put before a firing line.
What?
With the battle over women voters raging, Donald Trump suggests putting Liz Cheney in the firing line.
Now you have this threat against Liz Cheney that Trump is talking about a firing squad.
The Drudge Report, Trump calls for Cheney execution.
He's saying quite explicitly and unambiguously that Liz Cheney should be shot, should be executed by firing squad.
He directly said what he thinks should happen to Liz Cheney just because she disagrees with him.
He basically called for executing Liz Cheney.
Talking about putting Liz Cheney in front of the firing squad.
He actually suggested that Liz Cheney should face a firing squad.
Guns being trained on a political opponent.
Guns being trained on a political opponent.
He would like to see guns aimed at Liz Cheney's face.
9 barrels pointed at Liz Cheney is the latest escalation.
Using the military to kill a political rival.
We've graduated to firing squads and execution.
He really wants to kill with a firing squad his political opponents.
Sounds like to me he just thought she needed to die.
Trump was suggesting a firing squad.
Evoking images of a firing squad, of an assassination.
Unbelievable. Now, this is why the media has got to be somehow gutted. And I hate to use that word. You're going to hear that word a little bit later on in this broadcast, but not from yours truly. But I'm saying that, the media, they should have their licenses pulled. CBS, NBC, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, all of you guys. And when I say gutted, I mean they have to take out the entire group of news editors, of producers, the CEOs, the presidents, all of them. Oh, and maybe it's just a wasted effort. Maybe they should just pull their licenses, because this is why we are in the trouble that we're in today. I mean, we're facing the possibility of civil war breaking out in this country, which is exactly what the powers that be want. And Chuck Schumer is just as bad. As a matter of fact, you remember when last summer when he was telling Kavanaugh, "You're going to pay the price. You're going to face the whirlwind." Here he is.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you.
You won't know what hit you. You want to talk about, promoting violence? There it is. But now he's backtracking. Now that Charlie Kirk has been assassinated, now they're all saying, hey, we have to tone down the rhetoric. Listen, now this is what he's saying.
This is a time that all Americans should come together and feel and mourn what happened. Violence, which affects so many different people of so many different political persuasions, is an affliction of America. And coming together is what we ought to be doing, not pointing fingers of blame.
Oh, really? Well, that doesn't seem to be echoing in all of the other voices of the Democratic Party.
No one has ever been more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump, and he is a fascist to his core.
Hey, let me shut down the city! We are at war!
We're at a war right now.
We are at war.
So you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
And that's why the gloves are off.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
And yes, there are many threats to democracy. We see it with these extreme candidates.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
You can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
What the American public want is for us to bring actual weapons to this bar fight. This is an actual fight.
You know, this is literally call to arms.
The MAGA movement is a threat.
Michelle says that, when they go low, we go high.
No. With all due respect, if they go low, we don't go high.
When they go low, we kick them.
We take them to the mud and choke them out.
And make sure that they stay down. And you know what? Kick them when they're down, because they deserve it.
Get up in the face of some Congress people.
We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your...
We have to fight this in the streets.
We're going to fight it in the streets. It's time to step out of your comfort zone and step out into the streets.
To our Republican colleagues, if you do not see the light, we will bring the fire. Resist! You and your little friend off of Twitter. Y'all about to find out.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
You're not going to have a third term.
Okay, you get the general idea, right? Over and over and over and over and over again, the Democrats have been pushing for violence. Yes, they have. Yes, that's the party of tolerance. Yeah, of coexistence. Yeah, the love. They're absolute hypocrites. And they have been calling for violence. As a matter of fact, most recently, they basically said it's time to take up arms. Listen to this.
But this is a war. This isn't a battle. And we absolutely will win this war.
It is a war. It is indeed a war. And I have to say, they have won some battles, Jasmine, but we have to keep our eye on the war, and everybody needs to pick up a weapon and get involved, because this is for the safety and lasting of the country.
Pick up a weapon and get involved. That's your Democratic Party. That's the party of peace, right? Right? Just more and more violence. And, you know, it gets even worse. There is an influencer, a Democratic influencer. His name is Hassan Piker. And he's basically saying, go out and kill the conservatives. Listen to this. There we go.
I'm sick and tired of it. Left-wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. What the fuck is this shit, man? Slice them up. Slice them and fucking dice them.
Mm-hmm. There's your party of tolerance. And this is the type of stuff that's still allowed to go out there. Now, mind you, if you go out there and make a social media post and say that there are only two genders, that's considered hate speech. Mm-hmm. Now, you can state facts, but if somebody is offended by the facts, they can say that's hate speech, and then you get attacked. However, they can go out there and put this kind of crap out there, and no problem. No problem at all. And a perfect example is what's happened over this past 6 days since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and there are thousands and thousands of very mentally ill people posting their celebrations. And some of them are just absolutely horrible. I mean, they're putting it out there that they're so happy that Charlie Kirk got assassinated, and some are even suggesting that he and his wife and his kids should all be killed. This is the party of tolerance. And and they keep on screaming fascist, 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 fascist.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
This is what kicking the shit out of fascism looks like.
Try to prevent the spread of the lawlessness and the fascist chaos that's been unleashed against us.
So when we say Donald Trump is a fascist, fascism, a huge component of fascism is uniting racism, bigotry, a form of racist nationalism.
We are now living in a fascist dictatorship.
And we are worried about potential rise of fascism in this country. We're worried about our democracy falling to an authoritarian and potentially fascist form of government.
Not only to roll over to Donald Trump's will, but to roll over our democracy and allow him to take over this country as a fascist dictator.
When fascism isn't just coming, it's already here. The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, said, "No one has ever been more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump, and he is a fascist to his core."
Okay, they've been using that word fascist. How about the word Nazi? Yeah, that's another one. That's another word that they use to describe the MAGA deplorables. Anyone who's conservative or doesn't align 100% with the extreme left, then you are the enemy. We're not allowed to have open and honest debate. No, we can't do that. As a matter of fact, I saw a post when Charlie Kirk was making his stops all over with his Turning Point USA tour. There was a guy that came up, he claimed to be a pastor. He claimed to be a man of God, a Christian. And he was challenging Charlie Kirk to a fist fight. Now, how is that going to prove your point? So what? So if you go knock Charlie, he says, "I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. Let's have a fist fight." How is that going to prove anything wrong? This is the mentality of some of these people. I mean, this is why this country is in such dire straits right now. Now, I have to tell you, the powers that be, they have been pushing for a civil war. Now, keep in mind that there are people at the top, at the very pinnacle of that triangle, of that pyramid, who pull the strings, okay? The upper, was it the 10%? No, the 1%. There you go. The people up at the top. Now, the people at the bottom are the people. And you can be red, blue, conservative, liberal, whatever but everybody's struggling right now. So we have an issue between the bottom and the top. And the top knows that. And they don't want to have to go into conflict. I mean, they're the only 1%. The rest of us here, we don't want to have those strings pulled anymore. So the powers that be, rather than have that conflict, they would rather have a conflict that goes horizontal. Okay, instead of the bottom to the top, they want it going from the right to the left. And that's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. If we have a civil war between liberals and conservatives, then that means the liberals and conservatives are fighting each other. And the people up at the top are sitting there laughing. They're watching. They're orchestrating it. Because then all of the distractions doesn't have the people look in their direction. That's how it works. So we've got to somehow figure out a way to help both sides. Yes, conservatives, you've been gaslit and lied to just as much as the liberals have. And that's why I'm calling out Newsmax and OAN and Real America's Voice. Because they've all been basically, buying into this whole thing of conservatives versus liberals, right versus left. Oh, those Democrats, this and that. And on the other side, of course, all the mainstream networks are saying those conservatives, those, MAGA Republicans, those deplorables. They're all pointing the fingers from the right to the left and from the left to the right. And, this is exactly what the powers that be want. But if the left was to come to understand that they have been manipulated and gaslit, and, like I said, they've been manipulated not just psychologically, but chemically. The stuff that's in our foods, the stuff that they're spraying in the atmosphere, the stuff that we drink, the water that we drink, and the hokey-pokey thingy-dingies that a lot of them took. They've been chemically altered. And I've been saying this for 30 years. The atrazine, the bisphenol A, the prions, the aluminum, all of the stuff that everybody's been pumped into their arms or shoved down their throats. This is why there's so much mental illness going on here. And again, it's on both sides. And if we were all to come to realize that we have all been victimized by those people up at the top of the pyramid, maybe we could come together. Maybe the blacks and the whites could come to shake hands and realize, hey, we got screwed over. I mean, again, look at what's happened in this past week. Charlie Kirk, rest his soul, prayers out for his wife and his children. He was assassinated. Have you seen riots? Have you seen people turning over cars and attacking police stations and No. But then you look at what happened with George Floyd, and I mentioned this last Friday. George Floyd, yes, a drug dealer. Yes, he held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly. Yes, he was passing counterfeit $20 bills. Yes, he was a porn star. And this is the guy that they were pumping up and saying, oh, he's a beacon of light. And they had memorial services. And because he died, by the way, of a fentanyl overdose, Derek Chauvin should not be in jail right now. The autopsy report showed clearly he didn't have damage to his neck, and his cause of death was a fentanyl overdose. 3 times the lethal limit. But the media lied to you. And the left wing took it upon themselves to go out and burn down everything. You remember what happened in Seattle, the summer of love, yeah. What happened in Portland, what happened all over this country. Black Lives Matter, that was the battle cry. And by the way, that was funded by Israel. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Yeah. So the liberals took to the streets and burned and pillaged and killed and did everything like that. But Charlie Kirk gets assassinated, and what happens? There are prayer vigils. As a matter of fact, I saw a post yesterday, a young man who had been going to church for a long time, and he was standing outside of his church this past Sunday, and he's saying, I've never seen this before. There's a line to get into the church. I've never seen a line, and it's a long line. You used to go to church and there'd still be open pews, plenty of room for more people. That's the way it was. But now, since Charlie Kirk has been assassinated and he was trying to bring people back to Jesus, now there's people all of a sudden are rediscovering their spirituality. And God bless them for doing so. And this is what the powers that be fear most. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I got some other stuff I want to get to. Hang in there with me.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And I've been screaming about Get More Tank for well over a year because the stuff works. Now, I was a bit skeptical when I first got my first package of tablets, and when I tried it out, you know, you get 5 tablets, and the price is $22.22, and you get 10% off for the using the promo code REDPILL101. And so I got my first package of 5 tablets, and on your first application, you put 2 tablets into your gas tank and you fill it up. So I did that, and I put the 2 tablets in. I started driving around, and by the time I got about halfway through the tank, I started to notice that when I hit my gas, my car jumped at the green light. So, whoa. All of a sudden, I got more pep, more power, and so that was the first thing I noticed. And then, after the next tank, from that point on, you only put 1 tablet in per tank, and by the time I got to the 3rd tablet, I noticed that my mileage was increasing. And I was getting, well, let me see, I went from, it was 17.2, as I recall, it was 17.2, it went up to 20-something. Okay, so you're going to get anywhere between 15 and 20% better mileage on your vehicle, depending upon make, model, year, etc., and your driving habits. But I noticed that I started to get an increased mileage, and it's been that way ever since. And so it's a no-brainer, folks. You spend $20 and Get More Tank, and by the time you've used up the 5 tablets, you're going to save a tank of gas. Do the math. $20. Can you get a tank of gas for $20? No. So in one purchase, you're going to save money. So by all means, go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, click on the sponsors button, and you'll see a window there for Get More Tank. And you can click on that, and it'll take you to their website. You could read all the specifications and details, how and why it works, and it doesn't hurt your engine, ain't going to do that. And then you can order it, and like I said, Get More Tank. You'll be glad that you did. Okay, a couple of other things I want to get to as far as the Charlie Kirk assassination is concerned. You know, over this past 5 or 6 days, there have been so many posts out there saying that, okay, well, this whole mainstream story stinks to high heaven, and I agree. And they're coming out and saying, well, the real shooter was over here. Here's a guy in a white shirt. You could see he's got the gun, okay? Then somebody else says, oh, no, it was the guy with his arms folded. He shot from underneath his armpit. And then there's another guy saying, oh, look, there's hand signals going on. Here's a guy that touches his hat, then he touches his cheek, and then some other guy touches his shoulder and his arm, and then bang, there's the shot. Oh, okay. Oh, no, there was another theory that there was a sniper up above that came and shot him from the top. And like there's all these conspiracy theories, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't know what the truth is right now. The jury's still out. I'm not even going to focus on all that stuff. I'm focusing on the official narrative. Now, when you look at what they're telling you, or listen to what they're telling you, it doesn't make sense. It's filled with inconsistencies and impossibilities. In a nutshell, they're saying, okay, here's this kid, this 21 or 22-year-old kid, Tyler Robinson. He shows up at the campus there wearing a T-shirt and and he's got a backpack, and somehow he gets up on the roof, changes his clothes on the roof, assembles the gun, which is reportedly as being a Mauser with a scope on it. Now, a little bit of research will show you that depending upon the model of the Mauser, it's going to be either 42 or 44 inches long. That's a big, long thing. That's longer than a yard, okay? And so anyway, so you get this long gun with a scope. He assembles the gun, takes the shot, disassembles the gun, changes back into these other clothes, and then runs across the roof, jumps down, and that's the only video that they showed us. The only video that I've seen so far of this kid running across the roof, and then he jumps down. Now, when he jumps down, it doesn't look like, where's the gun? Where's the gun? How can you hide a 44-inch firearm and it not be seen?
Oh, well, he had it stuffed down his pant legs.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to tell you. You can't even walk if you've got a Mauser with a scope on it. Oh, that's right, he took it apart. Oh, okay, fine. Oh, well, then maybe he broke it down and stuck it in his backpack. Fine, you're still going to have a big thing sticking out of the backpack. So then this kid goes running across and he disappears, right? Then they're saying that he ran out into the woods, reassembled the gun, and put the scope back on it. I mean, none of this makes sense. It doesn't make sense. And this is the official narrative? All right. So my concern right now is looking at the official narrative. Once the official narrative has been proven to be absolute horse hockey BS, then we can look at and say, okay, what really happened? Now, there are a lot of very serious questions about what happened after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Why wasn't there an ambulance there? Whenever there's a large gathering of people, even if it's only 100 or 200 people, no matter what the gathering is, they always have an ambulance on hand in case somebody has a heart attack or something happens. There's always an ambulance handy. There was no ambulance at this particular event. And they were estimating there were 2,000 people there. Why was there no ambulance? Okay, and after Charlie was shot, since there was no ambulance, they had to pick him up. 6 people picked him up and hauled him off to an SUV. Question. For those of you who saw the video, the horrendous footage of Charlie getting shot, there was a lot of blood. And if you pick up a guy who's bleeding out and carry him to an SUV, there's going to be a trail of blood. Well, I saw the video of them carrying him off and there's no blood. No blood. Not only that, once that happened, as soon as they got that stuff, people started clearing out. What was the first thing that they did with the tent? They started disassembling the tent, and they took down all the video cameras because they videotaped Charlie because he's got a TV show. So where are those videos? Don't know. And then there's the issue about how many video cameras are on the campus. Now, Ryan Motto did some research, and he found out that, there's a company that specializes in giving video surveillance security. And depending upon how big the campus is and how many students there are, that'll help to determine how many cameras that you need, because you got to have them in the hallways, you got to have them in the classrooms, you got to have them in the doorways, and you got to have them up on the roof. So with a population of approximately 45,000 kids at that university, they were going to need anywhere between 2,500 and 3,000 cameras. Yeah, like I said, post them in the classroom, in the hallways, in the doorways and stuff, and on the roof. Well, how come we haven't seen any of those videos? It's sort of like the same deal, on 9/11 with the Pentagon. The FBI went around to all the gas stations and the hotels that all have cameras, and plus the Pentagon is the most surveilled building in the world. Where were all those videos? They're just deep sixed. They're gone. Same thing here with Charlie Kirk. So what the heck is going on? Now, of course, they're saying that this guy, Tyler Robinson, had a boyfriend that was in the process of transitioning. Was Tyler Robinson in the process of transitioning? What does transitioning have to do with shooters?
The Denver shooter was trans, the Aberdeen shooter was trans, the Nashville shooter was trans, the Georgia shooter was trans, the Philadelphia shooter was trans, the Uvalde shooter was trans, the Colorado shooter was trans, and now the Minnesota shooter was trans. I think one of the things that you see being pointed out by the Walsh types is that even if there is no clear ideology, there is something in the water with the untouchable nature of the trans identity until just the past really year that you could even talk about it frankly, and what appears to be a kind of underlying mental instability that tends to disproportionately give rise to these school shootings.
Okay, now maybe that's an issue, maybe it's not. But like I was saying a few minutes ago, that yes, the liberals and the conservatives are all victims. And I feel so sorry for the trans people out there and all of the people who are going through gender identity issues. And this is all, again, we look at what has happened to them, the exposure to the chemicals and the shots and the foods, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, I've said it so many times ago, 30 years ago, I was asking the question, what's going to happen if we don't get this crap out of our foods? The bisphenol A, the atrazine, the prions, the aluminum. What's going to happen in a generation or two if we don't get this stuff out? Because it all affects your hormonal balance. Well, here we are 30 years down the road, and California's got, 63 registered genders now? And God help you if you challenge them on that. There are only 2 genders. Hate speech! So, I mean, there is definitely mental illness going on in this country. And I think it was deliberately generated by the powers that be. Yes, those people up at the top of the pyramid, doing it to the people at the bottom of the pyramid. And yes, they are manipulating the right and the left to keep the battle going horizontal. They don't want it going vertical. This is why they are absolutely terrified if the whites and the blacks and the Hispanics and the Asians all join together and realize that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And we are not each other's enemies, as much as the media would desperately not have you understand. They want us fighting against each other. And again, que bono, who benefits? Who benefits? Getting back to the Charlie issue, there are a lot of reasons now why I think we can all see why Charlie was taken out. As a matter of fact, one of the most glaring issues that has Israel really ticked, or had, past tense, had Israel really ticked off at Charlie Kirk, is because in the past several months, he was starting to take another look at the actions of Israel and question them. As a matter of fact, the annual budget for Turning Point USA is about $140 million. And that covers all the expenses for the buses and for them to travel all these different universities and the TV show and Okay, it's about $140 million. Did you know that Bibi Netanyahu offered Charlie Kirk $150 million this past month if you just stay on board with Israel? Yeah. Bribery, coercion, blackmail. He was trying to bribe Charlie Kirk to keep his mouth shut about Palestine. Yep, and he also had invited Charlie to go to Israel. Oh, sure, that's a great idea. Charlie had already expressed his doubts in the integrity of Bibi Netanyahu, or shall I say Benjamin Milikowski. He'd already expressed his doubts into their integrity. Do you think that Charlie would have come back alive? Or maybe he would have come back with some illness, and the symptomology wouldn't show up until he was out on the road, and maybe spread it around some of the universities. Maybe that was part of the deal. But Charlie was questioning the October 7th issue. As a matter of fact, here's what he had to say.
The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu is basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here. But I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand-down order?
Yeah.
Was there a stand-down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question. The whole country is the IDF.
That's right.
The whole country is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So the point is in the past year, Charlie Kirk went from Israel has a right to defend itself. Palestine is not a legitimate country. And he'd gone he'd taken a complete 180 on that. I wonder why. Charlie changed his story. Here's another Charlie Kirk clip.
I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government without backlash than actual Israelis do.
It's been so unfair. They were coming after you after Turning Point for, among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented.
No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Like, I host a person that I moderate the debate of, mind you, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate, and my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper-paranoid, like, we're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice.
It's there's some rule you can't go there when it comes to Israel.
Well, you and I believe that we're Americans and Americans first, period. End of story. We are citizens of this nation, okay?
That's
and
right.
Israel, we have funded, we have supported, like we're going to, but we're like, honestly, the way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti-Semite. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions, not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no, I am a bad person if I do this.
Mm-hmm. And why else? Do you think there's another reason why maybe Israel wanted to go after Charlie?
Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. It's like, time for you guys to wake up and say no more. Draw a line in the sand. I don't care if you hate me.
Mm-hmm. And why else do you think Israel might have been ticked off at Charlie Kirk?
Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true, the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country that have done that. In fact, we have seen this with the recent retreat of Jewish donations that are no longer going to be administered to colleges, right? Mark Rowan, Leon Kopperman. Can we get that full list? It's very powerful. The part of the so that's totally true. And by the way, Tucker Carlson reinforces this. So I'm going to it was quite a day on the internet. Tucker Carlson was interviewing Candace Owens. We have Candace Owens coming up next hour, and Tucker Carlson mentions that Jewish Americans have primarily been financing cultural Marxist ideas. We said this, by the way, last week, and people came after us. We were on top of it. We actually said it in a different way. We said, I'm glad that Jewish Americans are reconsidering their financing of cultural Marxism. And people misunderstood it intentionally and slandered us as being anti-Semites. But listen to this. Tucker Carlson is completely correct by saying this, that the philosophical foundation of anti-whiteness has been largely financed by Jewish donors in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, well, let me see, I got one more Charlie Kirk clip about the liberal Democrats. Here it is.
At the core of the left, at the core of a liberal, is someone that would use the sword if they had it. They are very violent people at their core. They always have been. They can't debate. They can't have conversation. So they'll resort to these tactics. They're going to do everything they possibly can to try to murder this movement because they can't beat us. So they're going to try to take weapons. And no, we're very aware of that. I'm aware of it. We have to have full-time security. This is not a joke. This is who these people are.
That's right. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier in this broadcast, at one of his TPUSA gatherings, there was a guy that claimed to be a pastor, a minister to a church. And he was saying, I got to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. And how are you going to do that? Well, let's have a fist fight. That's the mentality. You can't prove somebody wrong by knocking their teeth out. All you're going to do is knock their teeth out. Didn't prove them wrong. But that's what they think. I mean, and also the other issue is that we've got folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie and a couple of others in Congress who are refusing to take AIPAC money. In fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene was going to be joining Charlie Kirk in his tour that was just kicking off. The assassination in Utah, that was the first of an entire tour that Charlie was going to have and go right through December. And he was going to have Marjorie Taylor Greene join him at some point. And why would he do that? She's not taking money from Israel. That might have something to do with it, but I got to tell you, there is a representative. People are finding this stuff out. Jake Auchincloss, I believe his name. He's a member of Congress. He was giving a town hall meeting, and he didn't like the questions that were coming up. He was actually dumbfounded and started to stutter. Anyway, here's a little clip, a little collage, and listen to the questions that the people out in the town hall meeting were asking him. Listen to this.
Watch Congressman Jake Auchincloss discover in real time that his voters know he's bought and paid for by the Israeli lobby.
I wondered whether if you had not accepted AIPAC money, whether you'd change your feeling about speaking about Israel-Palestine.
I think we as citizens and as policymakers have to hold in our heads competing convictions and ideas.
Me personally, I'm
word salad
with AIPAC, and I was just wondering if you particularly or anyone you know of has any plans to try to reduce this problem.
What are you doing to prevent the use of our taxes to starve and kill people in Gaza?
Yeah.
You were elected by us.
I've addressed Israel and Gaza now on, I think, 3 separate occasions, so we're going to keep moving on.
So I know you don't really want to take any more questions about Gaza, but I'm going to ask you to think about it.
Starvation is not what my tax dollars should go to.
So I hear the sense of emotional urgency behind Gaza. I've addressed that issue. I'm not going to continue to address the issue.
I want to know, aside from taking money from AIPAC, with respect, that's something that is infiltrated our government.
What are you going to do?
What do you plan to do to end the killing of Palestinians in Gaza while they are trying to access food?
Silence.
I've addressed the Gaza issue on numerous times.
So you don't plan to do anything to end the killing of Palestinians?
Do you believe killing children and civilians in the name of strategic defense is ever justified? Yes or no?
a somewhat related question. I want to make clear I'm a lifetime Democrat, and I will probably continue to be. But I also feel that all three branches of our government are betraying the people of the United States right now.
And she's right. One after another stood up to the microphone and would not let him go from those issues. And he was sweating bullets. He's taken over $690,000 from AIPAC. So, dear listener, how about your representative? How much money has your representative taken from AIPAC? And that's money that's on the record. How much money is off the record? Backroom deals. Hey, I'll slip this in your pocket if you play ball with us. Yep, over and over and over again.
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Mm-hmm. And now we can add to the list assassination. Yeah. Yeah, assassination. George Carlin had something to say about assassination.
Assassination. You know what's interesting about assassination? Well, not only does it change those popularity polls in a big fucking hurry, but it's also interesting to notice who it is we assassinate. Do you ever notice who it is? Stop to think of who it is we kill. It's always people who've told us to live together in harmony and try to love one another.
Yep.
Jesus, Gandhi, Lincoln, John Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, John Lennon. They all said, try to live together peacefully. Bam! Right in the fucking head.
Isn't that true? And you know, I remember when John Lennon was assassinated, the day that he was assassinated, and I know I for years I had the cassette because I recorded it. He was being interviewed on WRKO in New York for 2 or 3 hours. You can look it up, as a matter of fact. It's posted on YouTube. You know, just to do a type for John Lennon's final interview. It was on WRKO. And I remember him saying those exact words. He says, you know, people who have stood for peace always seem to die a violent death. And he pointed out Mahatma Gandhi. He pointed out John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X. He was talking about all these people who were trying to push for peaceful solutions to the world's problems. And every single one of them died a violent death. And then he stopped and he thought about it. He says, my gosh, what's that mean for me? And when I heard that, you know, I mean, at the time I didn't realize. But it was only a few hours later that Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon. And that's so true what George Carlin was saying. How is it that men of peace die with violence? I don't know. But I do know one thing. And that is that the right and the left, the blacks and the whites, the Hispanics and the Orientals, the poor, the rich, we all have to come together. We cannot allow this country to go into civil war because that's exactly what the powers that be want. They're desperate to have a civil war and bring this country right down to its knees and to its collapse, because then they can really implement their plans for global genocide. This is not a game, folks. You know what? I'm not stupid, I'm not crazy, and I don't lie. It's been that way for many, many years. Anyway, I certainly hope that you support this broadcast. If you do, and you're listening on BitChute or Rumble or YouTube, please click like, share, subscribe, and above all else, word of mouth. Tell people about the broadcast. We have to grow this and do so in a peaceful manner. All right, that said, I'm going to see if I can't get in touch with Ellie in regard to that Ellie May petition. So maybe I can get her on as a guest. If somebody knows her out there and tags her with this broadcast, hey, have her get in touch with me. All right, that said, we're flat out of time. God bless you all. Stay safe. Stay free. And I'll see you tomorrow.